the snow nani is coming. Right. Okay. I'm gonna bounce around a little bit here. We couldn't do what we do without our community supporters, our members, you all, and guests. Our community supporters are a big part of how we financially support this community, how we're able to do events like this, how we're able to do our happy hours, some of the things we plan on doing this summer, all that good stuff. So we set up a table over there. There's some things that the community supporters want to be able to share with you. We've got 15 community supporters, and to have the support of these organizations is amazing. I mean, all in one county, UL Partners, Insperity, United Healthcare, USI, and Mercy. Who's here from those 6 organizations? Yeah, look at that. Great turnout. Thank you so much. Let's give them a quick round of applause. Thank you. Here's our private level. We've got Boulay, Titze, Flagship Bank, and Cyber Law. Who do we have for those organizations? All right. Thank you so much. And then our evolving level, Carlson Partners, Fluid Interiors, Keystone Group International, Modern Foundation, and Red Advisory Group. Who do we have from those folks? None? There we go. Way to got it out. All right. So again, let's give our community supporters a round of applause because they are who makes this happen for us to get some food together and put the cocktails and stuff like that. Who also helps make this thing happen is Loffler. So Loffler of All Systems and the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce all are helping to make this event in specific possible. It's crazy to have the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce supporting us and we support them, which is the first time that they've ever had a peer group organization that they've approved. That's pretty awesome. So I'm pumped about that. Don Raleigh is your moderator. He's going to speak from, he's going to run this thing. You don't want me on the mic any more than I have to be. So he's going to be your moderator. He's from Evolve Systems. I'll introduce him in a second. But a very good friend of mine is the president of Loffler Companies. We've known each other for years, 15 years, I think. And when I told him I wanted to do an event, he's like, yeah, we got to do that event here. So I want James to come on up. I wanted to talk a little bit about Loffler in this awesome space. James, come on up.
Aaron mentioned, my name is James Loffler, president of Loffler Companies, and we are thrilled to have everybody here today. This is a new building for us, and our vision for this space was to connect people. Our purpose at Loffler is to help people succeed, and we know to do that, we got to connect people, and we need to help people. And today, that's what it's all about. Connecting people, educating people, and making ourselves better. And so, one of the things I want to recognize is Aaron. It's been so fun to watch Aaron on his journey to start Coalition9. I think we can all agree that this guy is a connector, and he's somebody that's focused on helping other people succeed. So let's hear it for Aaron. If you don't know Loffler Companies, we are a technology firm. We're focused on managed services, and our unique is that we bring technology together, organizations to simplify their environments, drive productivity, and drive costs down. And so some of the areas we do that is copiers, printers, a lot of IT services around managed services, phone systems, cybersecurity, and a number of other things. But I won't talk a lot about that. If you have questions about who we are, how we're helping our customers succeed, we'd be happy to talk to you afterwards. But again, I just wanted to welcome everybody to Loffler. Thanks for being here.
All right, let's talk about now. So I was thinking about who can we have moderate this event that knows enough about technology to be dangerous, has got the personality to be able to keep things going. And so Don and I met years ago, a handful of years ago. He just became a member of Coalition9 about 3 or 4 months ago. Don is classified as a cheerleader on every single personality assessment that he's ever taken. So, and were you an actual cheerleader? And so he was an actual cheerleader too. So That's fun. Let's hear more about Pancake. At the end of the day, though, I told Don, like, one of the cool things that I've seen about his group is that, and he's a big part of this, being a monkey, and anybody who knows what I'm saying about being a monkey, he has helped be a big promoter of getting that group together real fast. And as you know, that those of you that participate in Coalition9, groups come together, as, business moves at the speed of trust, vulnerability, transparency, and he's a big part of that. So, Don, I'm super pumped to have you moderate this. I'm officially off the mic.
So it was kind of a funny deal when Aaron was proposing this idea of moderating the panel, because we were going through how this meeting was going to be going, how the agenda of this event would shake out. And for the first time, I think we're having a moderated panel without any questions coming from the moderator. So thanks, Aaron. I also want to say thank you all for coming out. It's wonderful to see you all, and I think we can all band together as citizens against any type of weather forecasting supervisors whatsoever in the Twin Cities. So excellent work to you all for coming out, and thank you for allowing me to take a little bit of time on this stage. I've been part of the organization at Evolve Systems for 7 years now as the second generation, and it's been a wonderful pleasure and opportunity to work for the family business and supporting our organizations in partnership societies such as Coalition9. Wanted to highlight Ms. Lana Banana, and then Chris Carr is somewhere in the audience as well. Those two people are in my C9 group, and wanted to highlight you guys. I learn from you guys every single day when we get together, and I'm very much looking forward to continuing the partnerships that we found in our C9. Thank you. So let's get the show on the road. Jamie Anderson. Jamie is the founder and CEO of Emergent Software, a digital transformation technology partner helping their clients in areas of software development, cloud transformation, and data engineering. Those are a lot of buzzwords, aren't they? Prior to starting Emergent Software, Jamie founded Emergent Networks in 2003 and built that business into a $40 million technology and managed services provider before selling the business to Presidio in 2017. Jamie has been a long-time supporter of Create Minneapolis, and Tech, and other technology-related organizations serving the local community. Ladies and gentlemen, if you could raise your hands together for our good friend Jamie, we're looking forward to his presentation.
You just wave at me if I'm going too long. Adjust the speed. Thanks everyone for coming out. My name is Jamie Anderson. I'm the CEO of Emergent Software. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and how sorry, I'm getting a little bit of an echo from this laptop. Step back a little bit. A little bit about myself so you know who's up here talking to you. Grew up here in the Twin Cities, went down to Iowa State, studied electrical engineering. Did that for 4 years, came back, worked at a company as an engineer, a company called AEC Telecommunications. Anybody remember them? They don't exist anymore. They were a very large employer here back in the early 2000s. While I was there, I started doing my MBA at Carlson School at night, and my very first semester, I'm all excited because the company's going to pay for my education. I'm excited to get my MBA. And they close our plant and everyone loses their job. So it was a little bit of a false start. I stayed in school and started a company called Emergent Networks. So I was 23 years old. This was 2003, roughly, 2000, somewhere around there. And I did that while going to school at night. When I graduated, decided to see what I could turn this business into, and 15 years, 17 years, I guess 20 years ago, I built that company up to about 130 employees here in the Twin Cities. We did technology consulting, and then I sold that business in about 6 years ago to a company called Presidio. So that's a little bit about me, my background. Actually, when I was doing my MBA, I thought I was going to get into investment banking, but technology sucked me in. This is what I'm doing now. So, this is my family. This is a couple years old, so my oldest son is a giant now. He's a freshman today. I have a dog named Shelby, which comes from this. This is a car that my dad and my brother and I built about 4 or 5 it's really fun to drive. So we're all engineers, we like to do stuff like this. So a little bit about Emergent software. So prior to selling Emergent Networks, I spun out a group of our software development team into a business and joined a partner of mine called Emergent Software. We're engineers, we're not marketing people, we come up with a creative new name. So what we do custom software development, cloud transformation, and data engineering. We can do that all in Microsoft systems, helping customers with that digital transformation conversation. So, how many of you are familiar with this? This is something that I think was all probably too familiar with all of us. We spent all this money modernizing all these pieces of our technology environment, but there's this one application that nobody wants to talk about that's in the, some guy's been supporting and nobody, he knows his name or if he's even employed here anymore. This is a scenario that's all too familiar with so many people in the tech space. So we talk a lot about digital transformations. It's quite a buzzword. I'm sure you've all heard it if you're involved in the technology space. And everybody has a different definition of this. So I'm going to give you what I found is the best definition. This is not my definition, but I really like it. Digital transformation is the integration of digital technology into all areas of your business, fundamentally changing how you operate and deliver value to customers. So I was gonna ask people if they think things, but I don't know, that's kind of annoying when speakers do that. So I'm just gonna point out a couple things that jump out to me about this. First of all, it says all areas of your business. So remember, digital transformation is not something that is just siloed to the IT department of a company. It's across all areas of the business. In fact, most of the most interesting projects that we work on generally come from outside of IT. It's people that are looking at the business from a different way, saying, how can I apply technology to this problem or do something different through technology? The other thing that you'll notice, it doesn't say anything here about the cloud. So oftentimes people think that digital transformation is synonymous with moving to the cloud. Cloud is a great piece of technology that we can use to do digital transformation, but just moving things up into the cloud is not digital transformation in itself. So I'm going to talk a little bit about software development and how it has evolved over time, and then we'll talk a little bit about how the modernization of that process has created opportunities for digital transformation, and give some examples of that, and companies that so if we go back to the 80s, the 90s, software development is done using a lot using a waterfall method. Those that are familiar with that, it's a lot, and I'm not a project management expert, but it's a lot of scoping the project, big releases, like, every couple of quarters we're going to do a big release of our software. It's a big event, all hands on deck. It's a very monolithic design and architecture. So think mainframes, centralized computing, everyone accessing a centralized computer. And these applications were oftentimes loaded directly onto the physical hardware. So when you're writing that software, when you're deploying that software, you need to make sure that all the underlying hardware and drivers and all these things are all compatible with what you're doing. And then oftentimes, most of the time, those applications are hosted in the data center, usually owned by that. So then we'll fast forward to the 2000s. This concept of agile development is starting to make its way into everyone's vernacular. So agile project management and development is this idea of using sprints, creating epics and milestones, and doing sprints that can be different lengths used 2-week sprints when we do agile development. But the idea is that we don't need to necessarily spend all this time nailing down all the details of every little piece that we're going to develop. We're going to figure that stuff out as we go. There's a broad idea of what we're going to build. And it allows you to be more agile as you develop, less than being agile. So it allowed people to develop software and be not quite as monolithic in how they do that. It also came, application architecture also moved to this N-tier architecture. So we went to building out redundancy and having multiple application servers using multiple databases in the background. A lot of times there's a middleware in there that's bringing a lot of data transformation in the application. So fundamentally changing how applications are architected. Also, in this time, the advent of virtualization, having a hypervisor into the underlying hardware and architecture became very prevalent. So, for those that are familiar with VMware, they were a huge player in the space. A lot of other hypervisors are out there as well. But it changed how we were able to take a single piece of hardware and now use that to deploy multiple applications, multiple uses for a single piece of hardware. And a lot of this then started to be hosted in data centers. So instead of hosting it in your own data center, we might host it in another data center somewhere else with a lot of other people who use the local area where you're doing that. Now we're going to fast forward to 2010, and what would now be considered the cloud era. And what you see with modern software development is this concept of DevOps. Sometimes you'll hear the second DevOps, so security development operations. And it's this idea of a continuous development and deployment and quality and testing process that never ends. There are DevOps teams, development teams that are deploying code. I've heard some of them as many as little as every 15 minutes. Being able to do it every hour. And so you're not necessarily waiting on everyone else to have all their components done. You're just worried about the piece that you're updating. And you have this whole QA process so that you're able to deploy software very quickly. What has allowed this is this change in application architecture, breaking down a piece of software into microservices. So rather than having all these different functions in a single application that's packaged up and deployed, we've now built these API gateways where we write all these functions as individual microservices, and those can all be updated individually without affecting each other. On top of all that, how we deploy package applications, whether it's deployed to one of the major clouds or using containers, Kubernetes, things like that, allows us to package up an application and everything that we need into that container and deploy that across multiple different clouds, things like that. And then the platform that generally is being used is cloud. So just a little kind of walk through time and helping you understand where we've come from, where we are, and why that is allowing us to realize some of the digital transformation that you see today in our environment. So, why custom software? Years ago, when you hear someone talk about custom software, you oftentimes hear people cringe because they have some piece of software that they bought, and then a developer went in and customized it, and it did some cool things, so they customized it a little bit more, and then all of a sudden they couldn't upgrade it anymore because all the customizations they had built broke the software. And that obviously can still happen today, but with the modern software development methods now that are out there and the architecture designed with using APIs to talk to each other and things like that, it's much more feasible and much more advantageous to look at custom software development today. And one of the reasons that when we're working with clients, why they're So I'm going to talk about pizza, because everybody loves pizza. So when I was younger, when I was a wee lad, probably 40 years ago, there used to be a lot of families that would do Friday night to go out for pizza, right? And then this pizza company comes on the scene and they say, you don't need to go out. You can stay in your own home, just call us up and we'll drive that pizza to your house. And this was amazing to me. Like I remember as a little kid, pizza guy shows up, the pizza's hot, and it didn't matter if it tasted good or not. It was like, this is amazing. So Domino's Pizza has been, part of my life for a long time. Probably too much of my life. Fast forward, I go to college, I find out that Domino's Pizza has deals for college students. So my roommate and I are ordering pizza like 4 nights a week. We're loving it. Fast forward after college, now I'm working out every day, trying to work off all this Domino's pizza that I ate. And Domino's kind of hits this slump where their pizza really, I don't know what happened, the quality of the pizza went down. For about 10 years there, Domino's was really hitting hard times. Pizza didn't taste good. They weren't doing anything different. They couldn't even guarantee that they deliver in 30 minutes anymore because they get car accidents. So new CEO comes in and says, we're going to use technology. First of all, we got to fix our pizza. So there's a lot of commercials years ago about them, taste testing, doing all these different, improving their ingredients. Obviously, they have to have a good product. But then there's 2 different things that they did that were very interesting. Actually, one of them sort of tangentially got to be a part of when I was with Presidio, Domino's customer of theirs, and they were working on a big data project where it was Presidio, Dell, I think NVIDIA, and they were doing this project where they were taking a photo of these pizzas throughout the whole process of being made, going into the oven, coming out the other end of the oven, into the box for delivery. And they were using this to try to improve quality control, to make sure that when you order a pepperoni pizza, you're getting the exact same thing, whether you're ordering it from Domino's in Apple Valley, where I grew up, or if you're ordering it from Domino's in Chicago. So that was an interesting thing they did. The other thing that they did is they built this app. I don't know if any of you have used this app to order pizza. Obviously, a lot of the others have this now as well. But the entire process of how you order a pizza and how you interact with this company now has entirely changed. I don't actually talk to anyone anymore unless there's a problem. I'll tell you a story about that too. But just the other day, I was driving home from Ames with my wife, and our kids were at home, and we were like, let's order a pizza, get on our phone, we put what we want on the pizzas, we have it delivered, it's already been paid for, and we're just talking. It was actually super hard. We're talking about how amazing this is, and how much this has changed how we do this. We order Domino's pizza because they made it so easy. Now, the funny thing about that, we're literally driving, talking about Domino's Pizza and this app, and how much we love their pizza because of the app. We get home, the pizza still isn't there. We wait another half hour. I look at my app and it's still sitting in quality control. And I'm like, this has been almost an hour. This is Saturday night. So I call them up and I say, hey, I've been waiting for my pizza for an hour. Can you tell me when it's going to be here? And they said, it'll be 2.5 hours, sir. And I said, what? My pizza's already been cooked. It's just sitting there. We don't have enough drivers. You have to come pick it up, or it's going to be 2.5 hours. So all of a sudden, all of my love for Domino's faded away. And all that's to say is that all the technology in the world still can't fix, people and broken processes and things like that. But I think this is a great example of how a company, and there's lots of these companies out there, is trying to use technology to change and make the experience for their customers very different. Couple more. So Tesla, I don't need to should be where it hadn't been applied. Last thing I'm going to talk about, at Aaron's request, I wasn't planning to talk about this because I never even used ChatGPT, but a lot of people in my company have. I know 3 months ago, half the people in the world didn't even know this existed, and now they're all grateful for their jobs. But how we're looking at ChatGPT in the software development space is interesting in that it actually does a really good job of writing software, but in very small context of writing functions, writing small pieces of code. And so there still is a need for that overarching architect who's going to stitch all this together. Now, it may get better, it may get there, I have no doubt that it will. That screenshot right there is actually a screenshot of how Microsoft is building ChatGPT into their Visual Studio development environment to be able to assist developers. So we're looking at it as a way that developers can become more efficient and do their job better, but it's not going to replace their job. Now, what an interesting thing that we're talking about, though, is if you look at the progression of a developer up to, through senior developer up to architect, one of the things that you start doing is writing the low-level code, writing the simple stuff. You start to build your way out to be able to understand how an entire application is architected. If we take that away from all these people who are coming into the industry and just give that to them, what are the implications then? Part of what makes an architect really good is that when they have problems, they've had those years of experience doing that, and they can go in and look at that code and see what's going on. So it'll be really interesting to see how that affects our industry and where things go with that. But that's all I have. Appreciate you guys having me, and I'll be around if anyone has any questions afterwards.
Let's give Jamie a hand.
All right, how many of us have a new appreciation for our IT departments? My goodness. How many of those words were we actually able to capture? There's a lot of things that Jamie talked about that integrates directly into the front end as well as in the back end, what Jamie does well. It's always fascinating to see how there's so many different similarities in the different technology industries, but how they all interlap and work together. Some of the things that I really appreciated, Jamie, is how you talk about DevOps and how it's no longer projects. It's transitioning more into programs. And so we're seeing everything where technology was kind of kicked into the corner or shoved into the basement of a lot of these corporations or organizations. But we're seeing programs and technology being appreciated in everyday life. I think you're absolutely right, Jamie. We're going to see a space where people are not going to be replaced. How we interact with the technology will change. So, just like anything else, evolve or die. It's a terrible thing, isn't it? So, with that being said, I have the pleasure and opportunity to introduce our good friend Jason Hargreaves. Jason is the principal engineer at Loffler. You can imagine some of the problems that he has to face on a day-to-day. I'm excited to hear some of the stories that you have. And passionate about helping clients and partners succeed with their digital transformation goals. Jason started one of the first software as a service, or SaaS, offerings in 2001, where he assisted his clients in delivering their thick client applications over the web using new remote technologies. I think thick client means a new thing, a different thing in our world today. Jason has more than 30 years of experience working in IT, dealing with custom application development, networking, Windows, and Linux product stacks, as well as many different cloud platform providers. If you could all join me in giving our good friend Jason a round of applause, we look forward to hearing from you today.
And how we're going to maximize our technology being Google and the other mostly Microsoft. What we notice here with our clients a lot is that most of them are clamoring for Microsoft. So I figured I'd probably focus on that. I'm not sure how many you may already be using Microsoft Stack. And hopefully maybe some of this stuff will, if you are using it, will also play into things that you can do to maximize using what you already have. So Microsoft Modern Workplace is kind of I guess a coin term for the umbrella that is all of the cloud services that Microsoft actually has to offer. A lot of what you'll hear is things like Microsoft Office 365. Those are a select set of applications that most people, I guess, are familiar with. Those are, the standard email, the Office applications themselves, like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook. But for the most part, that's where most people are kind of like an entry point because everybody needs email, right? Everybody needs instant messaging and communications and things like that. One of the things that people kind of get into it to begin with, and I guess what I want to kind of spell out is that there are many other things actually that can help you with your business. And some of those are listed here, like so, if you're struggling with needing voice technology, such as an actual phone system using Teams, they have that as well. The enterprise mobility and security suite is for companies that need to manage people's machines, whether it's bring your own devices, phones, laptops, tablets. We're doing business. And as far as Teams goes, that's under apps. Normally that's kind of considered what you normally have as part of just the Office 365 version. And the Teams thing I called out separately here in the fact that Microsoft at some point kind of realized that there are things like SharePoint, and there are things where they kind of have SharePoint as let's say, it's a good framework. It's very hard to work with sometimes out of the box. Microsoft decided to use Teams because everybody's already in there for communication purposes and meetings, everything else. And so what they did is they kind of went with the focus of being able to use Teams as the front end to a lot of the services that you will see for these Microsoft products outside of the standard email stack. And what I mean by that is that, so if you're in Teams, there's an app store in Teams where third-party vendors can actually come in. You can let's say you have something where you need to do some kind of scheduling for your clients or for your resources, and it's something that's not just handled normally through Microsoft standards. You can actually purchase an app that can actually go through Teams, and everybody in that team or Teams channels can all start using a third-party application. It's also another thing where you see things like Power Automate and Power BI. With Power Automate, which is another really underused function within the products that they have, it allows you to look at things where maybe you have processes and you have let's say you have a bunch of people who have to look at POs, or they have to look at some kind of order, and they have to like scan it in, and they have to do something manual, and you can go and use Power BI and actually AI. There's an AI portion where you can have it where you submit images to, and you can say, okay, well, for each one of these POs, this is the particular address for the company. This is the line item, SKU item, however you would lay it out, and you can actually have it manipulate the images and bring them into Azure services like a shared secret. There's a lot of really cool things that I guess are underused, and that's kind of what I want to spell out here too. As far as the next thing is SharePoint. So SharePoint is the back end to a lot of things like Teams and groups and those other things. Now Azure I called out. You see how we have this 6 bubbles, right? Well, if you were to spell out each individual bubble below for each service that they have, we'd have more bubbles than fit probably on this entire. So as far as I put Azure here as a bubble that just says data storage, because that's pretty generic. But when we talk about Azure, there's hundreds of services. So I'll go into a little bit of it, but I just wanted to kind of start with the generic stack bit here to kind of go over some of the things here. So I guess how many of you are actually using the Microsoft product stack right now? Okay. I figured as much. That's what we deal with day in and day out. Right now, 91% of Fortune 100 companies are also using the product stack, specifically Teams, for collaboration based on some of the things that you're saying. And a lot of this actually really jumped up. I don't know if you may have noticed that, like, Skype for Business or there's Teams. A lot of people would kind of, they would chat to each other. It's a message, but barely anybody had a camera. Barely anybody would, really talk to each other, right? You'd pick up a phone, and COVID kind of came around, and after that, everybody's got a camera, everybody's got they call people on rather than using a normal phone. It's come to the point where it's like, it needs a phone system anymore. So, now, obviously, it's not completely true, but I mean, you can see that everybody has really picked that up, and to the point where now, currently they state, as of March 2021, I find it hard to find actual statistics from Microsoft stating their usage. Now, the reason I say that is because there's times where they say there's 50 million 365 Microsoft 365 subscribers. But what they don't tell you is that there is essentially another line of how you use it, right? Because you can have, let's say, the Hotmail or Outlook.com type usage, right, where there's personal subscriptions. So at home, I can purchase a copy of Office and Keyboard. And then, okay, well, as a business, for a small business, you have different subscription types for a small business up to 300. Then you move on to the enterprise, which is anything above 300. Now, when they state a lot of these things, they say 50 million. In this respect, what I'm saying is the enterprise stuff. Because when you look at some of them, they say there's 180 subscribers to Office 365, at least one or similar part, or some parts of it. So it is hard to find that, but what I do see is that, again, it seems like everybody here has been exposed to it. It is something that we deal with on a daily basis. And so I was just kind of spelling out that it's growing more and more. And part of that, and I guess one of the really good things about that is that there are many services that, for instance, there's security services that you can get with your Office, your firewall, where it's, when we deal with security, and I know that the next speaker is going to talk a lot more about security, but one of the things that they have is, let's say Windows Defender. Well, that's the default antivirus, anti-malware that's on every single Windows machine since like Windows XP. Well, what happens is those also report in anything that is ever picked up. And so, since most people run Windows, they actually, in Microsoft, have a better eye into some of the security things than any other provider. And so, with the usage of Windows and now extending into from just being a Windows client to all the way being into the cloud, there's many things that they recognize. And it's something that, through your usage, actually, the more people are on it, the better it gets. And also, the more that people are on it, the more they say, hey, Microsoft, why can't it do X? Or these are the things we need to do. And so that's why this has turned out from, just starting as a small group. I think I remember working with what we call now like Office 365 on Workplace. They used to call EPOS. And this was way back in 2008 time frame. Not many people used it, but I did deal with a lot of people who did use it, and it's come a long way where there was no idea of Azure. There was no idea of cloud at that point. It was just some kind of, it's just a hosted service. and it has grown exponentially in social impact. So I guess I want to call out some of the benefits of Microsoft's modern workplace, and part of that is, enhanced collaboration. Well, part of this, where I was talking about collaboration and the fact that they're using Teams, using email, I mean, these are pretty standard things. But what you find out is that through using Teams, you are able to bring in your own custom applications using like Power Automate. There's a whole Power suite essentially where it's what you consider no code or low code, and that's where you can drag and drop. You can say, similar to like anybody fires this up, they can come in there and say, well, when I receive an email from this particular person, forward this out to somebody else for approval. Stick this particular attachment into a SharePoint site, and then create a notification inside of Teams where it'll notify the specific individuals, right? And you can drag and drop and move, and now you have a process where you've just automated as an average person just using these services. So they say that, I think it was quoted as like there's like, I think it's like 30% of the processes in most businesses can be automated. And automation is really, I mean, it ties into just what we talk about. Jamie's talking about, he does custom code. Well, a lot of that is for automation purposes, I assume. And as far as things every day come up and you say, you know what, why are we doing this? Well, these give you tools to literally go in there and go, okay, well, when this particular thing happens, well, let's just take care of it. And sometimes, obviously it'll take more, a bigger hammer per se. It's not something you can just drag or drop. But there are tools that, you can end up with someone like me that could help you with that big tool, where you need to finalize a bigger project, or someone like Jamie as well. But again, so enhanced collaboration, the flexibility to work from home. So again, everything is cloud-based in this respect, because the only thing that's really not kind of cloud-based is the full install of Office locally. But there's an actual cloud-based version. So if you're opening the web menu and somebody sends you a Word doc, you click on it, it actually opens up a full copy of Word in your browser. So in a way, even that is cloud-based. And so the flexibility to work remote anywhere, this allows everybody to be able to just pick up the phone, answer an email, to be able to get on a Teams meeting to watch it, or if you get back to your machine, you can actually transfer the meeting to your desktop, throw on your headset, and there are many ways to make this very flexible, and that ties right into increased productivity. These are things, again, where these automation, those do increase productivity, I guess. And so the tools that they give you in the modern workplace are essentially kind of like you can start out with some of the basic things about this, right? We're talking about the email. But when we talk about a lot of the productivity that you can get out of this is where we start. You kind of put another quarter in the gumball machine, pops a license, and then that gives you access to the next piece, right? And you may find, hey, down the line, I don't want to pay for servers. They last 3 to 5 years, and then what do? Spend another $15,000 on this one server. Well, if that goes down, I have to have 2. So now I got 30,000. And it's like, okay, well, 5 years come up, and you go, well, now I got another 30, right? So you may come there and go, okay, well, at this point, maybe what I want to do is instead of having service local, on your premise, integrate with other things. Let's say for instance, we need to create a dashboard that's really looking at like custom ERP or some kind of other stuff. Power BI allows you to do some of that low code, no code stuff where you can slice and dice data from hundreds and hundreds of different connectors, whether it's just an Excel spreadsheet you can connect to. Now, you can present these dashboards in a way where you can present them in, let's say, Teams, which is another interface there. Because again, the Teams piece of this, because Microsoft does really kind of want to create that, that's the face of most of the kind of the services that you can pull out. So, another thing is improve security. I kind of delved into a little bit earlier about how Microsoft has essentially a better eye to things that are going on in most of these machines because they're the ones who came up with the operating system that, anybody writes a virus or a malware or something to, well, that's where it starts, but that also is where Microsoft can actually gather that information and help protect it as well. And so part of the thing is that so with security, we can pay another quarter per se, and I know it's a monthly license fee to unlock the next thing. And when we go that route, they give you the ability to just keep adding. And the great thing about it is you can start for like $4 for a mailbox, right? And all the way up to getting a full suite of things for about $50 per month. And that's like, right? And part of that, again, is that's the cost savings. So I kind of went over the Office apps, Exchange, Teams. I mean, a lot of this is kind of redundant to what I just said a little bit. OneDrive is another place where you can store data, where you can say, I don't need a file server. We all share our information, and you can have that OneDrive data everywhere. So that makes you, more mobile. Intune is what you can use to manage users, all the way down to the advanced threat protection for email. Create email campaigns. I don't know if any of you use Know before. It's kind of a way to make sure your employees are not clicking on things. Well, they have that here as well. So a lot of this stuff is where not only do you just pay a monthly fee for some of these stuff, you can also get rid of other things that you may be using, consolidate and save as well. Power BI, again, is another way to slice and dice your data, whether it be from anywhere. Like I said, it could be a local spreadsheet to an Access database, to an Oracle backend, you name it. And Power Automate is that piece that was the low code, no code, where you can drag. Another one that was kind of like back in the day was called IFTT. It was a website called IFTT. It was if this then that. There was a way for you to drag in the web browser and connect to Gmail, take that email, do something with it. Now, it's essentially the same thing, but Power Automate can also create actual applications. And you can build in applications inside the Teams. I guess we can go into Azure Active Directories. When we talk about Azure, I tell you that we can fill a wall of those bubbles. The main ones that you'll have, regardless, is essentially Azure Active Directory is the back end for all of your user accounts that get for single sign-on and everything from. That's on the back end of Office 365. So everybody kind of gets a copy or gets the piece of that. And when you grow, this is part of the thing that we're talking about Azure virtual machines, where let's say you have a GPU accelerated infrastructure. We wanted to say everybody can work remotely on my services, but we do, let's say, custom architecture. We do things with 3D and AutoCAD. You can actually have virtual machines where users can come in and have an actual big graphics card associated to that machine, and you can rent that on a monthly basis. And then those are all based on Azure's virtual network, which you can create VPNs between your site or to your clients or whoever you need to have access to. Your employees can come into that network. I guess at this point, thank you for your time, and I look forward to your questions afterwards.
So as you all can tell, we kind of started off with how do you actually build out the software? This presentation that we just witnessed was how do you maintain the software? And I think one of the most important steps in all of our businesses is as soon as we build the assets that all of our employees, our team members, and our customers use, is how do we make sure that that information is protected? We all often too many times see where businesses are corrupted, they're taken advantage of, and it's a really tough thing. And I appreciate what you said about how you can actually protect your team members and being able to make sure that all the software is contained within one system. I think if too many environments are bumping up next to each other, you get a really hard time trying to make sure to protect all your assets. So thank you very much, Jason, for sharing your thoughts. I think this leads directly into our next panel presentation about how do you actually protect the assets that you've created. Alex Titze is a seasoned sales and marketing professional with over 10 years of experience in cybersecurity, specializing in developing and executing innovative strategies to drive cybersecurity improvements for their customers. Leveraging a deep understanding of cybersecurity landscape, Alex has worked with a variety of leading organizations to create successful information security programs and cultivate relationships with key stakeholders. As a friendly reminder, as soon as Alex is done, we're going to be having a short Q&A session. If anybody needs a drink, especially after Jason's presentation, I will be joining you shortly. But we'll be having a Q&A session right after Alex. Let's give it a round of applause for Alex.
All right, so I don't have fancy slides because marketing people aren't prompt. And I am pitching for our CEO, so you guys are stuck. But I promise we'll make this fun. A quick question, I'm Jamie Armstrong. I'm going to be annoying. I'm going to ask the audience a question. How many of you guys are business owners? How many of you guys are business owners? Okay. How many of you are IT professionals? A few. All right, cool. How many of you think that cybersecurity is an IT problem? Cool. One person. All right. Well, so that's good. That means that I'm guessing every one of you is chatting about cybersecurity at the boardroom level, which I've been in this industry for 10 years, and when I first started, that most certainly was not the case. So today we'll chat a little bit about the SMB space and then really how you guys can protect your environments, but not from a technical level, because mostly I'm not technical. So I want to start out with just a couple of fun things. So we're an incident response company. That's most of what we do. We do offensive security and some fun stuff like that too. But most of our business is incident response. So somebody calls us on their worst day. And they're never fun phone calls. Something like I was just on one, my wife kicked me out of bed on Monday night because somebody kept calling her hotline. And I was just like, oh, someone else wants this. Like, she finally kicked me out because the phone kept ringing. I picked it up, and you can just tell right away someone's having their worst day. Right? You can hear it in their voice. And so you do the normal triage question. You ask them what their security environment looks like today. And they always list all of the great things. You know, they have an endpoint protection in place. They have a SIM in place. They do phishing training. It's all great stuff. But they still end up having to give us a shout, right? And it's because of the culture, I think, around security where everybody talks about perfection. And while we never want to get breached, the important part is, well, what happens when technology fails? Because as great as technology is, there's always holes in it. And so, you know, how do you respond quickly? Because business interruption is actually the biggest problem when it comes to ransomware. Right? You can pay the ransom, you can have cyber insurance, all these great things. Right? You're not going to lose a lot financially from the actual ransomware. What you are going to lose, though, is money and business interruption. Right? If your critical systems go down, right? If you're a manufacturer that makes some sort of widget, and your manufacturing floor goes down for 4 or 5 days, how much money you lose? And a lot of, at least the business owners, are starting to get that concept, but I really want to hammer that home. And I made a joke about marketing not being promised. So I'll pull up a couple stats here. So if you're a company that does $100 million in revenue, about 20% of that in profit, your daily burn rate is $307,000. That's labor, rent, electricity, that kind of stuff. Okay, so you do revenue at $384,000. Right, that's just your annual revenue divided by 260. When you add those two things together, really bad at taking pictures of the slides, is $691,000 in lost revenue and labor in 1 day. I don't know if you guys know this, but the average time to get critical business systems back up and running is 21 days. I don't know, I'm not a mathematician. Someone put this in here. That's $14 million. And it's just, a small business can't afford that, right? I mean, that's a lot of money. It's sad. So, what can you do to prevent that, right? A lot of people are like, how can you have cyber insurance? Those who aren't raising right? It's super important. I'm not a cyber insurance broker by any means. I actually hate cyber insurance because they delay how we do business. But it's still important, right? They help you in the case that you do have to recover from ransomware. Now the problem with incident response versus cyber insurance is that they're not incident response brokers, right? They're insurance brokers. So when you call them, that's like having your house on fire and calling your insurance broker, right? Don't do that. Call companies like Loffler. And it doesn't have to just be us, right? There's a lot of good firms out there. But when your house is on fire, you call the fire department, right? Call 911. We support businesses directly, and we also support insurance firms. We get cases from both of them all the time. But the number one complaint our team, and we employ divas, is what I call our cyber responders. They're these high maintenance folks that they just have too many things. But they're right in the fact that their job's so much harder when it comes to insurance, right? Because it's days later that the incident is finally being contained, versus if they call us right away, it's like 1 hour for us to deploy our folks. Instead of, again, multiple days, because they were playing phone tag with every panel provider, seeing who's available. So, enough of me dogging on cyber insurance. It's great, it can come in handy. Don't call them first. Even though I'm pretty sure most of your policies will tell them. Alright, so, talking about prevention, right? How many of you think that you guys have a good information security posture? Oh, that's not a lot. I'm starting to worry a little bit. But how many of you focus on prevention? How many of you have EDRs? How many of you howl? So you know what that means. Articles, huge companies in town, they howl, right? They have the greatest sales and marketing force in the world. But how many of you have a good incident response plan? No hands. Okay. So do me a favor, go online, go to Google, go to ChatGPT, whatever you found AI things, and have it write you an incident response plan. Get something in place, because if something happens to you, you have to know what to do. Also, don't store it on a server that's connected to everything. It's not helpful. The amount of times that we go and we're like, all right, what's the incident response plan? It's encrypted. That doesn't help us. But go get it, right? Go try to understand what you do, who you call. Right, your IT folks on staff, they probably have a really good idea of like, what are my critical systems that have dependencies to help all these other things work. But it can help, right? I mean, you can't do this stuff by yourself. We deploy teams of like 5 to 6 folks on site, and then we have 5 to 6 to be able to just hit a team and start to eradicate the threat actor gate system instead of that. Right? So we talk about industry average of 21 days. And that's because it just takes a long time. Now we pride ourselves on the speed that's how we do things. Our average is 4 days, 24 days. It's because we do that in a blitzkrieg fashion. I think that's, I don't know. But we just do it really quick, right? And that's where your guys' incident response plan helps so much, because if you identify with 3 systems I can get back up and ready to produce revenue, that's where we're going to focus first, right? If payroll happened on Friday, we get a call on Saturday, HR's not coming back up and running, right? It doesn't need to. So we look at and focus on the business versus the threat. Threat actor's already in there. Don't need to really worry about that, right? We'll get them picked out, but what we care about is your employees and your revenue and longevity of your company. 60%, this is a stat that IBM posted, 60% of small businesses go out of business within 6 months of a ransomware. It's horrible. I mean, it makes me shudder, but it's because like 21 days, I mean, how many of you can survive with not collecting revenue for that? How many of your customers are okay with not getting your product or service for 20 days? Right? Unfortunately, no one's really invented anything that has no competitor, right? They can go and find somebody else that does the service. So your availability to do it becomes so important. So yeah, I mean, focus on that response as well as prevention, because it's super helpful. And again, I'm a techie person. I just talk to a lot of people for a living. I ask a lot of questions, but it's always the same stuff. Everybody's worried about making sure something doesn't happen. They never think about, well, what happens if it does? So I don't have a whole lot more to talk about because I don't have slides and I don't feel like making a whole lot of stuff up. So I'm going to toss it back over and do some Q&A.
Thank you, Alex, for sharing your insight on some of what we call in the industry fear, uncertainty, and doubt. How many of you are terrified right now because of what Alex just said? My goodness, thanks for layering it on up there. So we're going to invite all the panelists to come up and join the front. We're going to be going through a quick little Q&A session. And as a friendly reminder, you are holding us back from getting to our children, our pets, our families. So one of the first questions that I wanted to ask to the group is, I think this is mostly catered towards Jamie. What are some of the catered towards Alex. What are some of the preemptive tactics that C9 members can take to stay ahead of these cyber threats? What are some things that we can do as regular small business owners on how to protect our digital assets? And what are some things that we all can do without having a degree in technology?
Honestly, it's a lot of stuff that Jason talked about. Microsoft has wonderful things you guys can be put in place to detect something bad in the environment. And it's super easy, just click a button. And then that instant response, I'll keep harping on that. And there's free templates out there for NIST and ISO. Just download them and then do a tabletop. Actually run through it. The worst time to figure out what you're going to do in an incident is during it. So practice that.
Want to open up the floor to any questions?
How do you typically engage around cybersecurity? Is it positive gamers? Is it people service or
Yeah, so a couple different models, right? I mean, people just call us out of the blue, when we respond. But yeah, retainers are a good idea to have in place. Whether it's a one-time retainer where you go for a year, or if it's proactive, running through scenarios like we perform tabletops reports all the time. Does that answer your question?
If I could you've seen that red little dot just stare blatantly in the face. That's those types of updates that you can make to actually prevent the work. And oftentimes, it's more challenging to bring on a systems admin where the average salary range is 80K to 120K to maintain and update those websites. So going in and actually understanding what the software usage is a very, very easy way to make sure your software is being done.
I actually have a question. So, between Jason and Jamie, maybe you two can kind of banter about this. I do want to talk about ChatGPT again. So, Jason, you talked about all those different things that were related to Microsoft, and then I just, the big thing now is that Bing is integrating ChatGPT into their, everything that they do. How is that OpenAI going to have an effect on all of those things in what I gotta imagine is a super short period of time?
Well, I actually have been writing some code for this just for fun too. And, some of the things that you can do with it because it's already pretty mature actually. There's the thing about ChatGPT. Actually, there's two forms of chat. Most people are familiar with ChatGPT because there's a couple of what they call codecs. But with that, you can say, give me something in a natural language, and it'll spit it out in a natural language. There's also one called DALL-E. That does images. So you can say, give me a cat with a hat and a party, in the background kind of thing. It'll generate those too. So not only is it just that, you can kind of bring them all together, but the cool thing is it's a real easy thing to get into. In the respect that the responses that you can get out of some of these, you can learn it a little bit yourself. So for instance, let's say you write a chat bot for, let's go back to Teams, right? You can have, you can fire up a Teams thing and say, you know what, this is my HR channel, and I say, well, what days do we have off for PTO, or what days, and it can go in the back, look at things, and say, oh, well, you have these days scheduled off in PTO, there's a million ways you can do it, right? And so now, because that's there, I think everybody is really just trying to get on board with that. It's going to go extra.
For those of you who know that CC is, that's kind of like what we're doing with CC. So we're working on that. Jamie, when I was talking about ChatGPT, you were just kind of like, oh shit, man, you're going to really tackle me that. But when you first heard about this, what was the first thing that you did when you were playing around with it?
Confession, I still have never played around with it. Yeah, it's funny. I've been a technology guy for my whole life, but I've never been on Facebook. There's just a lot of everyday technologies that people use that I'm super interested in. But to piggyback a little bit on that in terms of how we see Microsoft integrating that. They've already talked about a lot of the ways that they're going to integrate that. They made a huge investment, obviously, in OpenAI, and they're going to leverage that. And you're going to see that across the whole suite of Microsoft products. They've already talked about it. I think they actually just released a premium version of Teams that will actually dictate out the entire contents of the Teams meeting. So everything that is set will be written out and set in things like that. So like a note taker, things like that. I showed a screenshot there of how they're integrating it into their development environments, but you're going to see that across that entire suite. And you're going to see, there's other players out there too. It's interesting to me how just out of nowhere this thing kind of got on fire. But there's a lot of AI products out there. There's a lot of companies building AI into their products. So it will be a very interesting technology pivot.
No, I wanted to highlight something that Jason said, and you wrote code for fun. That's a blast. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I think you can tell the difference between Jason and Jamie, between operator and owner of companies. That's it right there. My question for Jamie is, what do you listen for when something needs to be a custom software application, or when something can be what we call WYSIWYG? WYSIWYG stands for what you see is what you get, or an out-of-the-box solution. When when you approach your clients, how do you decipher if it's a custom code or something that can be built out of the box?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We actually, when we start meeting with clients, this sounds super counterintuitive, but we almost try to talk them out of it. Because if we can go through that process and we look for, is there a SaaS product that does this? Is there, we just ask a lot of different questions and figure out, are there other ways to do this? Can we use something like a low code, no code thing like Power Apps you mentioned, Power BI, things like that? We try to look at all the other options for them first. There's always value in custom software. It can also get very expensive. And we want them to come to that conclusion after having explored all those areas first. So that if we do an engagement with them, we do start building out some customizations or integrating some of their apps, we're all on the same page of, hey, we've explored other ways of doing this, and this really is the right way to do it. That's how we approach it.
Are there any other questions from the audience? This echo is really powerful. I feel like a
Heidi Wilson.
Hey Heidi, what's your question for the group?
My question is, we do a very good job, I think, at all when it comes to protecting ourselves and all the things, but our clients don't necessarily, that it's us impressed. Can you speak to how we can address that?
Yeah, I think we're all familiar with the target scenario of how their HVAC company is the reason why all those rent cards were attacked. You want to talk about PCI security and all those types of deals. It's a hard deal. Who wants to tackle answering that? Bob. Yeah, vendors are the worst.
I mean, but they are your weakest link, right? I mean, besides your internal staff, you have the least amount of control. So good vendors management practices are really important. So asking them for their due diligence on their security on an annual basis, and most are used to it by now. They get questions. A lot of folks are going through SOC 2 certifications and things like that, which is a good base for good security posture. But really, it comes down to a business decision where is the service that they're providing critical to your business, even if they are super low. Target, it's an HVAC. There's a lot of HVAC vendors out there. If they would have done their due diligence and understood that they don't have good security practices in place, they might have avoided it altogether.
And just to add on that a little bit, as a business owner, we used to work a lot at my last company, Emergent Networks, played in a very similar space as Loffler, a lot of IT services. We worked a lot with financial clients, healthcare clients, so their vendor management processes for us were very stringent. We did SOC 2 certification and all of that. That's pretty commonplace to ask that of your vendors. But I think it's really important because think about how much data an IT provider has in a bunch of business. They're compromised. They have access to a lot of stuff. So it's important thing to think about.
So are you saying it's fair to say when you do a credit app with a vendor or something like that they should have you should create some kind of document that reflects the same thing where they got to check the boxes and sign documents stating that they've got what they've got? Yep. I'm seeing a lot of head nods. Yeah.
I think the other thing to take into consideration from the marketing perspective is that if you are a true vendor and a true partner to your clients, it may be worth a touch point. You attended the seminar for a very intentional reason, to gain more clarity and more information about how to talk to some of these technologies. If you have a client of yours that you consider yourself as a true partner, use this information as a touch point of, hey, I just went through this seminar. I'm curious, what have you guys done to address this? And that's a great way that you can use the power of C9 as a leverage tool to continue to build our communities to be stronger together. Are there any other questions from the audience?
There was, I can't remember who said it, but 30% of the tasks or something like that could be automated. So when I think about the tasks that we do, there's some very obvious ones, but then like how do you know the unknown of what, like is there a consultant that steps in, or like, what does that look like?
So I guess, 30% doesn't necessarily apply to everybody, right? I mean, what the general average apparently was when looking at some of that research. Now, the automation piece is, part of the reason I bring that up is because some of that low-code, no-code stuff, those are the low-hanging fruit. Right? So you can see some of that, and you go, oh, well, I can actually take care of that as an end user, essentially, right? As opposed to saying, well, I need the IT to do all of this stuff. But the fact that you can look at it and go, you know what, there's simple things that I can do this, and the next person down in the next view per se can do the same thing. Sooner or later, part of that 30% is stuff that you may not know, but other people in different areas are also feeling the need for said automation. So that 30% of the whole now gets whittled down if people start using it. Does that answer the question?
Other questions for the presentation? Going on?
I'll ask a quick question. I hear it from customers a lot. What are the number one or two things you can do within the Microsoft suite that's low-hanging fruit to secure your environment?
Okay. Yeah, so the low-hanging fruit, let's put it this way. I think most times, maybe you agree, that most viruses, things like that, malware that comes in that you need to be protected, is usually via email. So one of the things is that there is different levels of, like you can spend $4 per user per month and get a standard email package from Microsoft, right? Well, they have the extra added advanced threat protection piece, and it's an extra cost. But by enabling that, there are many more tools that you can literally turn on that will stop a lot of the things that's the main thing. So that's one of the first things, and then the second thing is that the endpoint detection and response. And EDR is essentially what most of you might just understand is like what the old school throw an antivirus on a machine. Well, antiviruses aren't necessarily what they are. They're all next-gen antiviruses because of the way viruses are actually created these days. So an EDR comes with that license type too. So really to fix your problem, you throw a little bit of money at it in a way. And it seems pretty simplistic, but those features come with something.
I'm using Google. Are you forever and I did? Me too! Is that an answer?
No. I mean, it's, again, Google has a very nice platform too, but when it comes to as far as security in your email, sure. I mean, the thing is that if you do get something, then the next step is, like I said, the EDR. It can proliferate past just email. So when you look at Google's portion of that, are they providing you with any other things beyond just the spam and malware for that? When you look at Microsoft's stack, it's from top to bottom, right? So that's why, from that perspective, I would say we focus mostly on Microsoft stack. So when you say if we're going to put the box around on email works pretty well with Google as well.
One more thing I want to say too is when I'm a Google user as well, and am I? But what I will say is you addressed cyber insurance before, and I think that was one thing that I'm glad you touched on that, because I don't care if you're a solopreneur or if you've got 100 employees. Every single business, if you've got an LLC or an S corp or whatever partnership, you should have some type of cyber insurance. So talk to your team. We've got a couple of them in the audience. So I will say that it's cost effective, but it can cover a lot, and then they can get right into your personal account as well, and some of that stuff covers your personal finances as well. So just think about some of the things when it comes to insurance.
I think another highlight, we've all gone through the trainings of what to look out for phishing scams, but cybersecurity and email encryption can only go so far. If somebody's clicking on a bad link and it takes you to somewhere else, obviously bad things will inevitably happen from clicking the wrong things on the internet. I think that one of the more creative phishing scams that we're seeing on our side is people having text messages that will be sent out acting as if they are the owner. Being that we are a family-owned organization, I received a text message from a random number saying, "Hi, Don Raleigh. This is Marty Raleigh. I'm in a meeting. Can you send me the credit card information?" So always think before you click is what we always like to say. And if somebody from your team is asking you for something, there's probably a better way than texting you after hours. Are there any other questions, or can we get to the happy?
Sorry, one more comment. I'm going to build on what Aaron said, but I think it's super important. You've got to have cyber insurance, but you've got to have an approved vendor. Because if something bad happens to you, and you've got to call these guys to get you, bail you out of trouble, the first thing your insurance company is going to say is, are they approved vendor? And if you got to take 10 days to approve a vendor, you're in a terrible spot, you're going to be in a really terrible spot. So you got to make sure you take the extra step with the insurance company, get the approval, get it in writing from the insurance company that they are an approved vendor so that if, in case the worst happens, you're ready to go. It's a really crucial step, and time is of the essence if you're in that position. So, just in the spirit of being honest.
Just trying to screw the hell out of you, right? With cybersecurity. How nebulous is that topic, right? Like, I think. So here's what I'm gonna say. Like, let's all get together, have a couple drinks, or if you want to hit the road, hit the road. What's more scary, cybersecurity or driving in the snow? Yeah, cybersecurity. Okay, and these are experts, right? You've got people from Loffler floating around. Spencer's one of our members. Joe Dashaw's one of our members. Brandon Norberg's one of our members, but he doesn't know anything about technology. And then obviously James. And then also, you know, Jamie and I, we had this conversation at the Saints game last summer, and that's where this event came from. So Jamie's a wizard when it comes to this stuff. We literally call these guys tech wizards, and it comes from some of that. So I want to say thank you to them. Thank you to Don. I appreciate this. You guys did a great job. Thank you so much to everybody.